If you are a reader or you know someone who is, here's a simple craft you can make from a soda can. You can make these to add a handmade touch if you're gifting a book, or use them yourself so you never lose your place. They're quick and fun to make, and best of all, they're totally customizable. The first step is to collect and clean your cans, and then you're going to need to break them down so you just have this sidewall part. If you're interested in how I do that, I have a tutorial on how I break down my cans into the 4 parts that I use most frequently, and I will link to that in the description box. The next step is to flatten the aluminum into sheets, and you need 1 sheet of aluminum for each bookmark. If you're interested in learning some different ways to flatten the aluminum, I also have a tutorial on that, which I will link to in the description as well. To customize the bookmarks, I'm going to be using this inkjet water slide decal paper, and it's very simple to use. It's the same size as your printer paper, so you just run it through your printer with your customized art on it. And then to apply it, you're going to soak it in a little bit of water and the image slides right off, which I'll show you in just a minute. I'll also link to this product in the description box, and the cost per page came out to about 68 cents. These are the templates that I'm going to be using, and I will link to them as well in my blog post if you'd like to use these templates, or you can certainly make your own templates. The one thing about the water slide paper is that you are going to need to seal it, and the directions said to use 3 coats. I tried that on previous projects, and I did have a little bit of bleeding. So because I have so much color and I wanted to be sure that I didn't have any bleeding, I did end up putting 6 coats of this sealer onto my paper. If you use a different sealer, you might not have to use as many coats. It's kind of just personal preference and a little bit of trial and error. So once you have your artwork printed and sealed and you've got your aluminum sheet flattened, you're ready to apply the art to the metal. And to do that, I just have a little bit of water. I'm going to trim out one of my bookmark images, and I have a plastic scraper to get all the water bubbles out with. So I'm also going to grab a little bit of paper towel here, and the directions say to let your image soak in the water for about 30 seconds before trying to slide off the image and put it onto your material. So I'm going to cut just around my black edge here. I don't want to cut on the line yet because I'll be trimming off that excess when I cut my aluminum sheet as well. So I'm just going to let this go into the water and soak for about 30 seconds. And you'll notice as it starts to get enough water soaked in, it will sort of start to uncurl if you have a piece that curls up in the water. And once it's been in the water for 30 seconds, you can go ahead and try to just slide the image around, and you can see that it's moving pretty easily. So I like to just slide it up a little bit off of the backing paper. And the instructions say that you can wet the material that you're working on as well, but the water just kind of beads up on the aluminum, so I haven't really worried about having extra water on my material. So then I'm just going to place this in the center of the metal here, slide my backing paper out from underneath, and you're going to want your paper towel for this so you can kind of dab off the extra moisture. If you need to, you can reposition your artwork a little bit. And then I'm going to use the plastic scraper to push out any air bubbles. And when you're working on a flat surface, you will push out quite a bit of water. And you can see lots of tiny little air bubbles in there. So it takes a minute just to get all of them out of the way. I kind of like to work from the center out to the edges. And you can see there's still a few little bubbles there. So once you have all of your bubbles removed, you want to just set your piece aside for 3 to 4 hours and let it dry. So I've got an image here that has had time to dry, and the next step is to go ahead and cut the metal and the water slide paper along my printed line. Now on this image, it's a little hard to tell, but I did put a 1/4 inch border all the way around the artwork. So you can see on these pieces that there is a border between the art and the outside edge, and it's 1/4 inch. So the next thing I want to do is I want to cut some of my metal tape, and this is just foil tape. You can find it at your hardware stores and home improvement stores, and I use it a lot with my aluminum projects. It's very simple to use because it has a paper backing on it, so you can mark it to the width that you want. It's a very tacky tape, and it molds to the shape that you're taping it to. It's not a particularly strong tape, but it is a very tacky tape, and it's really a good tape to use when you're working with any metal project. So I'm just going to cut a couple pieces to the size of my bookmark here, and then I'll mark the back of the tape at a 1/2 inch because, like I said, I have a 1/4 inch here, and I want to apply the tape and wrap it around the edge to the back. So I need 2 short pieces that are a 1/2 inch wide and 2 longer pieces that are a 1/2 inch wide. I'm ready to apply the tape, and to use this tape, you can just gently peel back the aluminum section and pull back on the paper. I'm going to start with the long side of my project here, and I'm going to go ahead and take all of the paper off because I want to line it up with my artwork here. And like I said, it's a little hard to see on this one. But once you have it in place, you can go ahead and sort of just burnish it down with your fingernail. I'm working on a piece of parchment paper here so that the rest of the tape doesn't stick. And then I'm going to just kind of set this down and roll it over to wrap the tape around the other side. And again, I'll burnish it down with my thumbnail. And I'll just trim off the excess tape and do the other long side and then finish with the short sides. Now you could just leave it like this, but you can see that it still curls a little bit and it's a little bit flimsy. So I like to add a little bit of embossing. And to do that, I just have a soft mat. I've made this out of a couple layers of t-shirt scraps. And I have a small embossing tool. And I'm just going to flip this over and emboss right along the tape lines. You want to work slowly but steadily. And you can go back over the line if you need to make it deeper. So this first time around, I'm just going to press kind of firmly and get that groove made so that the embossing tool will follow that line when I go over it again. So you can see there's sort of a wobble to it now, and so the next step is to go to a hard surface and emboss along that line again, just off to the side of it. So I'm reinforcing that impression. So I'm just working back and forth from front to back to make this impression deeper and to put a sort of flattened edge around the bookmark. So that just gives a little more shape and definition and makes the bookmark a little more sturdy. To finish off my bookmark, I'm going to punch a small hole and add a little bit of cording. And I have a couple of beads made from aluminum cans as well, just for a little added decoration. If you're interested in learning how I roll the beads from the aluminum cans, I will link to that video tutorial as well. Now on this template, it's really hard to see where the hole is supposed to go, so I'm going to have to just kind of eyeball it. You can see on some of these other templates that I have a spot designated for the hole punch, and this is just kind of a square punch. I'm going to do my best to eyeball it here. Not too bad, I guess. All right, so to finish this off, I'm going to trim up my cording here a little bit. And I like to fray the tassels a little bit. A wire brush might work better for this, but I just have a toothpick. I'm going to kind of untwist my tassels here so they're a little more frayed looking. And then I have a piece of metal tape on the other end just to use as sort of a needle to thread the beads on with. So I'm just going to tie off my other end and trim the tape off. And this cording is just some crochet thread that I braided 3 strands together. But you can use any kind of cording. And if you wanted to, you could cover this with tape, but I try to find cans that just kind of coordinate color-wise with the art that I'm putting on there. So I like to feed the loop through the front of my bookmark. And then pull the beads through the loop. And I like to make the little cords sort of different lengths. And that's the finished bookmark. I hope you enjoyed this quick tutorial. Be sure to check the description box for all the additional resources. Click the like button and subscribe to join my YouTube family. Also, if you'd like to never miss an episode from the Upcycle Design Lab, you can check the description box for a place to sign up to receive my newsletter. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you back here soon in the lab for my next experiment.